Views expressed in the videos are my observation, analysis of events, persons based on principles of astrology. It's not my intent to predict, forecast absolute outcomes, only suggest how they may unfold. Nothing is set in stone. I could be wrong, but often I'm right. My desire is not to promote fear, only inform about what we see unfolding. It is our wish to prepare our subscribers for events that could affect them, their family, their goals, and their future, to help to prepare for what you may already suspect is happening, and to send a warning shot across the bow and raise a flag of concern. Our goal is to help, not hinder, in these perilous times, to inspire and offer possible direction, and to reveal that a greater plan and purpose are behind all that is happening. Eventually, we will see a brighter day. If you would like to show your appreciation for our work on these videos or this channel, and also the Knowing Whispers channel, you can always click on the word thanks at the bottom of all the videos. Hello everybody, it's Robert Cosmar, the Astrology of Life YouTube channel, and the 3 newsletters on Substack called Knowing Whispers, Messages from the Universe, Trump in America, and Ask the Astrologer. Today my video is entitled, Will Kamala Harris Pass the Test? So far, the lingering joy of the Democratic National Convention is with us, but you can sense that the energy has kind of dissipated a little bit. And we know from watching the news in particular that Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and the MAGA group have decided to really start hitting below the belt. And the question is, what is it that Kamala Harris is going to be tested on? This is something I'm going to explore today in this particular video. And I've got quite a few different images here to talk about, but I want to begin with her natal chart. The reason why you want to begin with the natal chart when you're talking about transits and progressions is that the condition of the planets that are in transit aspect to one another or in progression, their strength, their ability to do what the transit or the progression promises is based upon the natal condition of the planet. And in Kamala Harris's chart, we're talking about Saturn. She has a very strong Saturn here, with Saturn trining her sun. Okay, Saturn essentially trining her Mercury. And if you look over here, you can see this. You can see Saturn trining the sun, it sextiles the moon, it trines Mercury, creating a very mature, stable type of personality. But there are some areas where there are weaknesses, okay, or there is karma that she has to deal with. One of these has to do with Saturn opposing her Mars in the sign really of communications, okay, and also Saturn squaring Jupiter, okay. Here is Jupiter, okay, and then here is Saturn. So there are some issues that she must deal with, contend with, like we all do karmically, based upon that position of Saturn, which is very close to her midheaven in the house, really, that focuses on law. And you can see here that her natal Saturn was stationary or approaching stationary at that time. And of course, if you know anything about stationary retrograde, stationary direct, these can tell us the actual strength of a particular planet in terms of its position in a person's chart. Okay, so keep that in mind, because everything that I'm going to be showing you is based upon the condition of Saturn, transiting Saturn, aspects from it, and then these factors here that I have discussed with you. Okay, all right. Now, this again is Kamala Harris's natal chart. Okay, these are the transits for September the 10th. This was the day of the debate. Okay. And the thing to keep in mind here, or to notice, is that transiting Saturn is opposing her natal Pluto. Okay, now, what can this tell us? it can tell us a lot about what we can expect to see, potentially, within relative means. Okay? When you take a look at the transits here of her Saturn, you take into consideration what I just told you about Saturn's impact upon her. All right? You also take a look at the house that Saturn rules, which is the 8th house. This is the house of other people's money. It's the house of transformations. It's the house that's ruled by Scorpio. You can see here that Pluto is stationary in that 8th house. Okay, now, if you heard in one of my other videos about stationary planets, there are a whole slew of them between now and November. And when a planet is stationary, it is a buildup of energy. It is a focus. It is an event, okay, that is going to happen in some way, shape, or form. So you will take notice. You remember this type of thing. All right. Pluto rules her 6th house, the house of health, the house of service to others. Okay. Pluto is in her 4th house. Okay. In the very private part of her life. Okay. Whereas the 10th house is the public. Okay. So we have things to consider here. Okay. Her inner personal private life, the house of health, the house of death and rebirth and transformations, and the house here of career and, in a sense, karma and fate itself. So something in the area there, what I just described, is going to be what this Saturn opposing Pluto is going to trigger. And I believe it's exact on the 15th. So it is after the actual debate, if in fact it actually happens. That's the thing you got to keep in mind. Because all of this stuff about talking about the debate was done while Mercury was retrograde. And knowing Donald Trump, he could change his mind at any time and decide not to. And like I said, the important thing here is to understand that there is something big coming for Kamala Harris, something that will no doubt have a very profound effect upon her. You know, so far, everything from the Democratic National Convention right on through now has been kind of a rah-rah, shish boom bah, you know, feel to it, almost like save the day, don't worry about it. Well, you should, okay, because as is the case in most situations, you know, the old saying, waiting for the other shoe to drop. Well, the other shoe is going to drop here. And it's going to be prior to the election and even through the election. And I mentioned, I think, on another video that I think that delays are very much the order of the day when it comes to the election itself in regards to determining who is the actual winner. And a lot of deception, a lot of illegal stuff being done, stuff to be tossed into the courts, things to hold off, you know, the transfer of power, all these things. And probably even worse. But this situation right here could be something happening karmically to Kamala Harris before she takes power that is not expected, will have a deep impact upon her, okay, and may even make it difficult for her to campaign, to find the energy and the strength moving into the election itself. So keep that in mind. All right, this primarily here, this particular image, by the way, the images that I have shared with you have come from the programs, the Janus 6.1 program, and this is the Kepler program from Cosmic Patterns. You can see down here that on September the 15th is when Saturn will oppose that natal Pluto, okay? And you can see over here, okay, that Saturn does it again on January the 11th. All right, so we're talking about Saturn, all right, going retrograde and then coming back, okay, and making contact by going direct. A challenging aspect, something that is not expected, something that happens, all right, that she is not totally in control of. You can see down here that in October, Uranus is also going to oppose her natal Uranus. Or Saturn is going to oppose her natal Uranus because Pluto and Uranus are very close together. Okay. And also here, I mentioned this before in another video, that Saturn is going to sesqui-square the Sun on November the 3rd. And also it will be semi-squaring the Moon at that particular time. We're going into orb of it. And all of this really indicates delay, in my personal opinion. And these other factors, though, are something that's not anticipated, something that knocks her off her feet to a certain extent for maybe a period of time, something that she has to deal with. Okay, so again, waiting for the other shoe to drop. It's probably going to be occurring. There's also some concern up here too, that in August, her Saturn opposing her Venus. You can see here where it was exact on August the 12th, and then it, of course, goes retrograde and then goes direct, and in February on the 4th. This could be some stress in the relationship. Her husband, Doug Emhoff, was actually, I believe, born about a week before she was. He's also a Libra. And the thing that's interesting about this particular aspect here that I'm talking about is that almost the same aspect of Saturn, okay, to Pluto and Uranus, all right, are going to be in effect in his chart as well. Okay, so very much so, this could be a situation where whatever does occur has an impact upon him, has an impact upon her. And the question I'll toss out there is, could this be something that happens to Doug Emhoff? Or could this be something that happens to one of their children? The children are probably less likely because we're not talking about the particular houses that would involve that. But let's hope that it's nothing that is that severe. Of course, here is Uranus conjuncting Jupiter. And of course, this is in December and also in March. A lot of what can happen with this really depends upon whether or not she is at the point in her evolution where the energies of Uranus are going to operate. Okay, so again, keep these thoughts in mind. Okay, now this is a different chart. This is an astro signature forecast. Okay, and you'll see over here to the right we have green as good luck optimism, red is mental acuity. That's kind of a tannish, I think, or no, a grayish. Okay, confusion, imagination. Tan is emotion, sensitivity. Red is solitude. And then black is accident proneness. The interesting thing here, in comparison to Donald Trump, and I'll show you this here in a little bit, is that for the majority of the things that are happening down here, they're not that high, which means that the aspects and the progressions during this time are not that difficult, challenging, critical. Okay. The one thing that is certain here, though, is you can see here that the solitude and the withdrawal here, okay, is very strong in her chart. And of course, this is a big deal. This particular debate, hopefully, she's hoping to hit a home run. She's hoping to put an end to, so to speak, to the drama in regards to Trump. And she does have the experience to do this. The question is something unexpected going to happen to her prior to this that is going to have an effect upon her effectiveness at that time? So keep this in mind. You'll see in Trump's chart that it's much different. There's much more tension and emotion in this particular chart. And again, this particular chart comes from the Kepler program. All right. It's very good for showing clients and showing my viewers graphically, okay, what the astrology is saying. Because if you start talking about aspects and things and talking about how they affect one another too much, you're going to lose your audience, okay, because not all my audience are astrologers, okay. All right, so let's move forward here. Donald Trump, okay, his natal chart. All right, there's really nothing significant in terms of the transits that are going on at this time, okay? And to a certain degree, we know Donald Trump is not too thrilled about having this debate. Therefore, he may decide to opt out, although the pressure is probably upon him to have the debate, okay? And we'll just have to keep in mind the things that are in force here at this time. The closer we move towards Donald Trump's sentencing, the closer Uranus by transit is going to be squaring that Mars again. And I believe also Mars is also conjuncting Mercury up here at that time on a transit chart. Okay, these are significant in regards to the things that could possibly occur. You can see here that on September the 10th, here's Mars at 3 degrees Cancer, 8 degrees, okay, Mercury in his natal chart. You can see here that Uranus is stationary on the 10th, so it's strong, squaring the Mars down here, okay? So it's not like he's not in a situation of where accident proneness could kick in. I mentioned many times up until now that you can see Pluto is also stationary down here, getting ready to go into the house of health and service to others. Neptune, has already gone into the 8th house, okay, which may explain why it is that he has lost some of his focus, why it is that his ability, so to speak, to sell his product is not as convincing as it was, many months ago. Okay, so this is the scenario of what Donald Trump's walking into on the 10th itself, and there'll be some more here in a little bit that I'll show you. Okay, November. You can see here he has Uranus sextiling Venus on the 4th. Prior to that, it'll already have passed on the 4th in terms of its effectiveness, but you don't have as much of what you're seeing in the chart of Kamala Harris. And again, keep in mind, we're not comparing here the effectiveness, so to speak, of Trump against Harris or Harris against Trump, okay, purely on their ability, cognitively and otherwise. Okay, there are factors there in Kamala's chart that may derail her effectiveness to a degree or cause her to stumble. Okay, something maybe emotionally that happens within her life sphere. Okay, in Trump's chart, you can see in December, Uranus is going to conjunct the midheaven again. Okay, his Jupiter conjuncting on the 25th of November, Uranus, Jupiter, trining Jupiter, great for social, this could indicate some kind of a hopefulness from the standpoint of Trump's situation. If something does in fact happen that takes the wind out of Kamala Harris's sails during this time, a real challenge, for her to find the strength within inside of herself to go forward. This could be a very trying test, but also a test that really tests her mettle, and more so than maybe what it has, okay, in the past. So keep that in mind. You can see down here where Saturn in February and March really starts to hit Trump, pretty hard, which we would expect. And possibly it could indicate that some of the legal situations, have finally, borne some fruit. Okay, now Donald Trump. As I mentioned before, you can see here that there's absolutely nothing, and this is kind of a surprise to a degree. Imagination and confusion. I find it hard to think Donald Trump wouldn't have a high score all along his life on just this. But at this particular time, just basically 11 days into the month of September, you can see that there's not that much of a disruption, okay? You can also see here that there is, okay, an optimistic attitude as he moves towards the election. And again, maybe this is because something's happened that was unexpected with Kamala, all right? The thing that is true to Donald Trump, okay, as you can see how everything else is high, whereas with Kamala Harris, everything was low, all right? Accident proneness is high, Uranus squaring Mars. Solitude and withdrawal, okay, is this purple line up here. Emotional sensitivity, okay, this tan line right here, okay, very high. And mental acuity, okay, up and down, all right. An interesting contrast here. And again, all of these things are saying essentially what the event could be in terms of giving you an idea of what the area of life that it could be, about how it would affect the person emotionally. Okay, now moving forward, Kamala Harris's husband, Doug Emhoff. All right, we don't know his birth time, so again, when you're talking about aspects and things, it's difficult to really know what houses are involved. But I think on the next chart here that I'll be showing you, you can see he was born October the 13th. She was born October the 20th. Okay. You'll see here what I was mentioning about Doug Emhoff, November. Saturn opposing Uranus. Okay. You can see here that this is November, this is September. September the 18th, Saturn is going to oppose his Pluto. So we're talking about a shared experience, a shared anxiety, maybe would be a mild way of putting it. And again, depending upon the planetary placements, it can tell you how strongly this could impact him, both of them. They seem to have, for all practical purposes, a very strong marriage. Okay, but there are things that can happen in the dynamics in a relationship that is changed because of the pressure, the responsibility, and the arena that she's walking into. Okay, with the war in Ukraine, all of these things, okay, that are coming about for her. It definitely would make you want to think, about, do I really feel like I'm up for this, that type of thing. Okay, so let's go here and see if I have anything else. Nope, nothing that is significant. Okay, so the gist of the whole video is simply this. There is something coming for Kamala Harris. It is going to be more than just her being called names or, the Fox News situation trying to debase her as a woman and as a serious client or candidate. Something that is a test of her will and of her inner strength. And something that will, like I said, will definitely derail her, hopefully not for very long. And hopefully in that recovery, she'll find the strength that she needs to go into the presidency in 2025 and knock the ball out of the park, which is what everybody is hoping will happen, because change is needed. And the question is, has America had enough of what they see to vote out or to vote for her versus the obvious with Trump? Or is America going to continue in a downward spiral, leading into the most seriously tragic period of the history of America? Okay, thank you for watching. I hope that you will comment. I hope that you'll share this on the internet. I would love to hear from you. Keep in mind that my partner CJ and I both have newsletters over on Substack. Hers are called CJ's World and CJ's Whispers of Knowing, where she receives guided messages from her guidance and she shares that information with you. Okay. I also have the 3 that I mentioned earlier. Next Saturday, I will have the first of 2 live streams on YouTube and on Facebook, and possibly over on another platform. They've changed some of the specifications, requirements for a couple of my platforms, which has made my inability to be live on those platforms unless I spend money. So we will definitely have YouTube and Facebook. Okay, and then another time during the month of September, I will have another one, and then in October, it'll be every week, every Saturday from 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Trump's Talk and Awakening, where I hope that you'll join us. Okay, for those of you that make donations, thank you so much. Those of you that do it sporadically or that do it on a regular basis, monthly basis, it is appreciated, as I've mentioned to you. We treasure your support, both energetically, Okay, and for those that can, financially as well. It helps us to retired individuals in our efforts to pay the bills. Okay, from the love of my life, CJ, my spiritual partner, my best friend, love of my life, many times my teacher who helps me to see myself when I don't. Okay, we thank you again, and we look forward to being of service to you. My next video will probably be on the actual sentencing of Donald Trump and what the chart says for the 18th, if in fact it does come through on the 18th. This is going to be an interesting period here the next couple of weeks. So keep apprised of what's going on. And thank you. Have a great day.